Welcome to the PODcast, the Pride of Detroit podcast. We are back with a second episode for today because we want to talk some Detroit Lions training camp. Hi, my name is Jeremy Reisman. I'm the managing editor of Pride of Detroit, and once again, I am your interim coach of this podcast. Chris, who made his triumphant return last week, is off doing some radio stuff this week. We'll have him back next week. But just right off the top, a little programming note. We're going to talk only about football on this podcast. Not that we want to ignore what happened with the Jacob Blake stuff earlier on Tuesday, but we had a separate podcast for that. And if you want to listen to that, go back and listen to that. We wanted to devote an entire podcast to training camp because a lot has happened in the past week, and we want to cover all of that. So we have two guests tonight. One you're probably very, very, very familiar with. It's Ryan Matthews.
Me, right?
Oh, maybe. It's Ryan Matthews. That's at Ryan_POD on Twitter. Ryan, how we doing tonight?
I'm so pissed Monster's here.
Spoiler alert. Mansour Shaheen is also with us at Mansour Shaheen on Twitter. Mansour, are you pissed that Ryan's here?
Yes.
All right.
You should know what you were getting into. You're on the podcast.
Hostile from the top. I love it.
Let's keep it that way.
I hate old people.
Wait a second. Who's that directed at? So the way this is going to work, we are going to go position by position, kind of talk about their performances at training camp through the past week, kind of revisit some training camp battles that we had previewed in the previous podcast, see where things stand now, see where our opinions stand, and maybe how the Lions are going to create the roster, where their strengths and weaknesses are, that sort of thing. We'll go offense in the first segment, defense in the second segment, and then we're going to answer all your questions in the third segment. Sound good, everybody? Wow, resounding yes from
I don't know if you're talking to the people or us. Yes, sounds good.
I'll talk to whoever listens because that's what our podcast is all about. Let's get into it then. Let's start with quarterbacks. So I was talking with some of the beat writers today before practice was canceled, and I think we all kind of came to an agreement that David Blau not only looks considerably better than how he ended the season, but he potentially looks better than Chase Daniel. Now, there's no chance that Chase Daniel gets cut based on his contract or anything like that, but my question to you guys is, if David Blau looks markedly better, looks like potentially a backup that could compete when in the game, is it worth keeping him as QB3 on this roster? Let me go to Mansour first.
No. Yeah, no, we should. I mean, if he really looks that good, we should probably try trading him back to Cleveland and get our draft pick back. But yeah, we have so much offensive skill talent that we're going to let go of at least like one talented skill player, right? So would you rather have a guy that, if everything goes right, will not see the field? Because like David Blow is QB3, that means that two dudes got injured. Like, would you rather keep that, or would you rather keep Jason Huntley and Ty Johnson, so we have like another speedster, or would you rather keep Marvin Hall and Jamal Agnew, so we can have like a punt return specialist? I mean, if he looks great, that's fine. I mean, that's good, but Chase Daniel, like you said, we're stuck with him, so it's kind of is what it is. And I mean, if we can sell him to other teams, then that's great, but we can't keep the three quarterbacks now.
You feel the same way, Ryan?
I think I feel the same way in theory, and it makes a lot of sense to prioritize maybe some other specialized skill players above a QB3. But if David Blau looks good enough to be better than Chase Daniel, I think you want to at least entertain the idea of keeping a third quarterback and maybe even try to push him to the practice squad if that's an option. I mean, take your risk at him getting poached and maybe another team swooping in and doing that. Or, you know, as Mansour kind of joked about, I mean, it's not really too much of a joke to think that you could trade a commodity like that. I think that David Blau, if he's looking better than Chase Daniel, which to be honest isn't a very high bar to clear, yeah, I think that you go that route, but you need to maximize his value and choose whatever that is, whether it's trading him, keeping him, practice squatting him, like maximize his value in you know, the best way possible.
I get where you guys are coming from, but it seems a little too short-sighted to me because, well, I mean, there's two things here. One is COVID. Like, it's something that you have to kind of keep in the back of your mind, right? Like, COVID hits the room, and you need at least one guy healthy, and maybe a third guy helps with that. But kind of the longer-term version of this is, like, what if David Blau is, like, the future backup? What if he's our next Sean Hill? Where you know, it's just a guy you can trust long term. And I know Sean Hill isn't like a huge boon to any team, and it's not a reason why a team's going to win championships or anything. But a backup quarterback that's capable is not easy to come by. And if you let David Blau go, I think there's a good chance he gets claimed on waivers. I don't think there's any trade value. I mean, without any preseason games to kind of put tape out there, who's going to look at last year's tape and be like, "Ooh, David Blau, give me that"? Nobody. But in terms of keeping a guy around on your QB3 just to eventually be your kind of long-term backup, it doesn't seem like a great use of roster space, but it might be a necessary one in this current kind of climate where teams might be reaching to just have an extra guy on their roster, and I don't know if he slips through waivers. I mean, it's always a crapshoot. Everyone always says, "Oh, you can't get rid of this guy. He's going to get claimed on waivers." We don't really know. I think quarterbacks tend to get claimed more than other positions, so I don't know. I'm with you to a point, but I also think there's a legitimate argument to be made for keeping him around for QB3.
Well, I mean, I guess the like opportunity cost is like a good skill player, and if let's say Stafford goes down again for any reason, whether it's COVID or an injury or whatever, I don't think this team is winning with Chase Daniel or David Blau, right? Like I don't think the difference between Chase Daniel and David Blau is the difference between us going 0-8 last year and going 1-7, or I guess like we would have had to gone 5-4 to have made the playoffs at least, or 5-3 to make the playoffs at least. That's not big enough of a difference. Like, you know, like it's effectively the same if Stafford goes down. We're running with the backup quarterback who's probably not capable of regularly winning football games. But on the other hand, like instead we get to keep a punt returner who's like a former first team All Pro, or we get to keep a wide receiver who can line up out wide and like make plays like not like regularly, but at least like contribute on a semi-regular basis. On the other hand, it's like, yeah, what if this happens? But even if happens, we're screwed no matter which guy's the backup. So I don't know. Like I like you said, backups. Like I don't think backup quarterback is that important. I think if your starting quarterback goes down, it's all on fire anyways, unless you already have like a super strong roster.
Fair. Any closing thoughts on quarterback before we close it up and move to running back, Ryan?
Yeah, hopefully if COVID hits the quarterback room, Jamal Agnew is ready to make another position change.
Fair enough. All right, let's move on to running backs. There's really a lot happening at running back right now. There's injuries. There's new people entering the fray. There's a lot of talent there. And, you know, Ty Johnson is getting a lot of first-team reps because DeAndre Swift is dealing with an injury. Kerryon Johnson is getting maintenance days. Jason Huntley is flashing in receiving drills. His speed is on full display. Fullback is kind of crazy right now because Nick Bawden hasn't been in team drills. Neither has Isaac Nauta. So they made a full switch for Jason Kabinda. A linebacker is now playing fullback full time. I have a million questions, but I don't know where to start here. So I guess let's just go back to kind of the pre-training camp storyline of Ty Johnson versus Jason Huntley. Are you guys in one or other camp, or are you in the camp where let's try to keep them both?
I think this is where the David Blau like roster spot comes in, right? Like,
Sure.
Because yeah, I mean, if they both like really good in training camp and they definitely have like skill sets that are very valuable in today's NFL, especially Huntley, like running back who can regularly catch the ball with that much speed is, that's big. So I think if we can make it work, I would rather keep Johnson and Huntley than keeping, let's say, Agnew at receiver or keeping Blau at QB3. But if it comes down to it, I mean, Johnson is repping with the ones, so I guess him. But I think Huntley has a better skill set. Like I think Ty Johnson's super limited by his inability to like make a tackler miss. So I think there's like a inherent ceiling on him that Huntley doesn't have.
What about you, Ryan? Where do you stand right now?
Yeah, I think the proof is in the pudding, and I know that we don't want to put too much stock in who's playing with the ones and who's playing with the twos, but if the de facto number one is Ty Johnson, then he's probably endeared himself to the coaching staff in a way that it almost seems like his roster spot might be more safe than not. And I think, to be honest, I think the more interesting camp battle is going to be Jonathan Williams versus Bo Scarborough.
Sure.
Like, do either of those guys even make the roster? Do one of those guys make the roster? And I think it comes back to, like, Monster talked about at the top of this question, what the Lions decide to do with David Blow. Because if they want to keep that many running backs, I mean, you're talking about DeAndre Swift, Kerryon Johnson, Ty Johnson, Jason Huntley, and a big bruising back like either Bo Scarborough or Jonathan Williams. We're talking about 5 running backs.
And then maybe a fullback
and a fullback. Yeah. So like,
right. So
you can't do that and have a QB3, like, not allowed.
Well, I don't even know if you can do that, whether or not you want a QB3 or not. I mean, take QB3 off the board. I don't know if you can keep 6 running backs. I mean, that's an awful lot of cachet that you're spending up, especially when you have to think about the wide receiver position and then think about the other side of the ball too before we get to defensive line. I mean, this is a team that's pretty shallow in depth, and they need as many bodies there as possible. So I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but the running back situation, as we kind of predicted before camp started, is one of the more interesting camp battles.
100%. And I think you brought up a really good point talking about Jonathan Williams, because I think he has just as good of a chance at making this roster as Bo Scarborough does right now, because Scarborough has basically been out since the beginning of padded practices, and Jonathan Williams is no slouch. I mean, we all kind of praise Bo Scarborough for the job that he did in limited action with the Lions last year. Jonathan Williams essentially matched that kind of production with the Colts. And so they're similar backs. Jonathan Williams isn't quite as big, but their running style is similar. Their value to this team is probably similar. But you also kind of have to think about, like, well, how valuable is a power back to this team right now? Because Kerryon Johnson runs pretty aggressively. So does DeAndre Swift. And while I don't necessarily think a little lightning going on behind Mansour, that was kind of foreboding. I don't know what that meant.
A little ominous, yeah.
Jonathan Williams, lightning just flashing.
I think it was when I said DeAndre Swift, and that would make sense, lightning.
No.
But if you hear thunder, then we should keep Jonathan Williams.
There you go.
Yeah.
It depends. For every mile away you are.
Clap your hands.
But yeah, no, I do think it's kind of an interesting. To me, I think right now I'm in the camp where I think Ty Johnson and Jason Huntley have shown that they're both worth it in different ways. To me, I'm not taking too much stake in the fact that Ty Johnson is repping with the ones, because I think it would be weird to put your 6th round rookie there as your number 1 right away. We could see that change in the future. So if one of those guys are on the roster overall, I'm actually probably leaning Ty Johnson more than Jason Huntley. But I think both those guys are safe, and we have to have a serious conversation of whether a power back is really necessary in this offense, and I'm not sure it is.
Could that be the major advantage that Nick Bodden kind of has over the other fullbacks? Because unlike Nada or Kabinda, I mean, he's an actual fullback, and he can serve as like a bruising back in like super short yardage situations. Well, I mean, Kabinda's straight up a linebacker. Has he ever carried the ball? Isaac Nada's a tight end. He's not used to taking handoffs. So this could actually play in like Nick Bodden's favor, that like, yeah, we don't need Scarborough or Williams, but our fullback will be the 4th and 1 guy or something, something like that.
Then also too, how long? I mean, for the past couple of years, we've talked about how the Lions need a complimentary bruising back, whether it was LeGarrette Blount or C.J. Anderson, and none of it worked, and none of it really even seemed necessary.
Yeah.
There were a lot of times situationally where the Lions were maybe 4th and 1 or 4th and short, and I think a lot of us were like, play action or like throw the ball, do something. Like, don't be so predictable and try to just jam it in, because it's more so the offensive line that you're trying to focus on there instead of a bruising back. So I think maybe just don't keep 6 running backs.
It's possible. Really, there's so many different roster combinations, and I don't know where they're going to go. I think the next 2 weeks are obviously key. But another roster position that's filled with questions and talent is the wide receiver position. And they've really showed up in the beginning of the camp. Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay look as good as ever, basically catching everything that's thrown their way that's catchable. Quintus Cephas, who I think we can all probably agree is safe on this roster even before camp. Looks like he belongs with, I shouldn't say he looks like he doesn't belong with the 2s and 3s. He looks that good that he stands out amongst those. So we think he's safe. But now the question, we know the top 3. We know Quintus Cephas is safe. Now we get into the kind of nitty-gritty, and it becomes tough, and we've already kind of alluded to it. Jamal Agnew, Marvin Hall, both, neither, one or the other. Someone else that we're not talking about. Does Tom Kennedy make a crazy story and make the roster? If I were to give my assessment of these guys in camp, Jamal Agnew looks good. Not great, but good as a slot receiver. He looks comfortable. He doesn't look like he's a cornerback. He doesn't look like he has cornerback hands. He's catching the ball. He looks smooth in his routes. Now, there's still obviously a long learning curve there, and I don't know how useful that skill set is going to be with all the talent that the Lions already have. But he looks good. Marvin Hall, same. I mean, he looks like he did last year in that he can be a legitimate deep threat, and maybe he's adding a little bit more to his game. You throw in Jamal Agnew's punt return acumen, it makes for another kind of dizzying situation. So 5, 6 wide receivers. Who do you guys got right now? Are we just loading up on running backs and wide receivers?
I think Agnew, one thing, I mean, it's good to see it might look in camp. One thing that's going to curse him is redundancy. Do we need another slot receiver? Danny Amendola is great in the slot. Cephas definitely can play from the slot. He's speedier than those two, but we also, if we want a speedy guy that can line up at receiver, DeAndre Swift, Ty Johnson took a lot of reps at receiver last season. He's even his returning. I mean, he's a great return man, obviously for a former first team All-Pro, but Jason Huntley was a pretty good kick returner at New Mexico State. And I mean, it's not entirely translatable, but you can find a guy on the roster with all the speedsters who can just fair catch a ball. It's not, it's not, I don't think returning is very, very important unless you have Devin Hester, unless it's that level. So I think Agnew kind of suffers from redundancy while Marvin Hall doesn't. There isn't a comparative wide receiver to Marvin Hall on the roster right now. So I think that's a huge advantage in Hall's favor because we don't need a third guy who can play inside.
I think that's a really good point. The one thing I will say about punt return though is that I watched Jason Huntley try to field some punts on, I think it was Saturday.
He had a bad day, right? Yeah.
He dropped 2 and then didn't catch the other one. The other one bounced in front of him. So it's semi-translatable, but it's going to take some work for him if he wants to win that role. And plus, the Lions do have Danny Amendola as kind of the safe catch guy, the safe fair catching guy. So you're right. There are only so many balls to go around on offense. So how many is Jamal Agnew going to catch in a game? How many touches is his skill set going to fetch in an offense that's just already stacked with fast guys, with slot guys, with outside guys? It's a really good point. What do you think, Ryan?
I do agree that, how Mansour said, that there is some redundancy if you think that Jamal Agnew and Jason Huntley and what some of these other guys can bring to the return game. But I think one of the ways that he's not redundant is something that Mansour also said, is that speed. There isn't a lot of speed at the wide receiver position. Even in the top 3, when you talk about, and then this is all relative, but you talk about Kenny Galladay, Marvin Jones, and Danny Amendola, none of those guys are burners. None of those guys are speedsters. And you only really get to those guys when you get to the bottom of the wide receiver chart with Marvin Hall and Jamal Agnew. So I think Agnew is really close to being a roster lock for me. I think that he brings enough versatility to everything. I mean, the ability to maybe play cornerback in a pinch, play wide receiver, be speedy, be, a gadget player. I think that there's enough there going for him that he's going to be a guy who's going to be on the roster at the end of the day.
All right. I like it. All right, let's move to tight end. TJ Hawkinson is dominating training camp once again. Only this time it's for realsies. Because he's got Tracy Walker. He's got Jaron Kearse. Some talented guys that can actually cover tight ends, and he's dominating. This is his year. I'm saying it. He's breaking out.
Year 2 leap.
Year 2 leap. It's happening. Ryan, I'm looking directly into your eyes. It's going to happen this year. Tell me I'm wrong.
Tuesday, August 25th, 8:23 p.m. Jeremy Reisman decides to say that TJ Hawkinson, the guy who had one game against the team that was the worst at covering tight ends in the 2019 season, is going to have a breakout season when there are so many mouths to feed on offense.
Doesn't matter.
George Kittle didn't look good his rookie year. Look at him. Not particularly great. He wasn't like all pro his rookie year. He wasn't.
Okay, but was he a ghost?
Hawkinson had some moments. He cooked the Cardinals that one time in week 1. Their backup corners.
Top 10
Okay,
tight
look,
end. Top 10 tight end, no question.
Oh my goodness.
No question.
Okay. Look, I want TJ Hawkinson to be good. I want him to be good. He just has to go out and do it.
And he's doing it against Tracy Walker.
Yeah.
Who's good, kind of.
Sweet. In practice. It's in practice.
Okay, I do have to all kind of joking aside, although I do stand by everything I just said, but I've kind of been saying it in a joking tone. I do have to continue to remind myself that he looked this good in training camp last year, and training camp doesn't. I mean, it matters, but it doesn't matter. You don't win awards for a great training camp, and
Unless you're Zach Simon.
What?
Unless you're Devontae Parker.
Unless you're Devontae Parker. I'm just
No.
like he looks stronger.
He's real quick, Jeremy.
Yeah, go ahead.
Yeah, he looks physically different, right?
Yeah. And he's using his body different. He's boxing people out. He's catching contested passes. Not that he didn't do that last year, but it's just like Jaron Kearse is 6'4", like 220. Like he's an enormous safety, and he's just like he's putting his body to him and still getting like 4 yards of separation. It's insane. And I really want to hold back my excitement because you're right. Like you can't mark something down in Penn when he hasn't shown it on the field other than one game. You're right. But man, like I'm trying to find holes in his game. I'm trying to find weaknesses. I don't see it. I mean, if Stafford stays healthy, this guy's going to have 800 yards.
It's happening. It's going to happen.
Hold on. So we're supposed to be talking about tight ends. I literally have not seen his name once, but is Jesse James still on the team?
I can't confirm that. I don't know.
RAP, you were like RAP Hunter Bryant. I feel like if Jesse James wasn't like on a contract we can't get rid of, Hunter Bryant, I mean he was pretty good in college. He has like I said, like unique non-redundant skill set in our tight end room, but like Jesse James is there. So
no, I mean,
sorry,
you're 100% right. Like, and we'll see how serious Hunter Bryant's injury was. I do kind of sense that it's more on the serious end of the spectrum, but not necessarily one that will. I mean, not one that will require IR. They probably would have already done that. But he was looking good as a receiver. I think Matt Patricia kind of referenced slyly that he was, going through some blocking issues. He's not really a two-way tight end yet. So I think it's probably a likely chance he makes it to the practice squad and they work on that all year. But yeah, Jesse James, no. Like, it's the same with and we'll talk about it a little later with Jared Davis. It's just all these people like, just give him a year. He'll turn it around. Like, I'm not seeing it with Jesse James. I'm not even seeing anything close to promising.
What happened there? Like with just like what like it doesn't make, he was actually kind of good with the Steelers, and now he's like he just doesn't exist.
I don't
like,
get it.
His contract is just a total albatross. But are the Lions only going to keep 2 tight ends?
No, I mean
I think not.
They'll keep Nada assuming he gets healthy. If not, they'll pick one up. They'll have to. I mean, you can't just roll with 2 tight ends.
Like I think even if Hunter Bryant was healthy, I mean Hawkinson, James are locks. I think like Nada, the fact that he kind of fits what we like more, and if Hawkinson gets injured again, he can at least fill the blocking part of that job and can play fullback. I think he would kind of be the guy there. Unfortunately for Hunter Bryant, but yeah.
All right, let's quickly move to offensive line before we head to the break. Surprisingly, one of the positions that might be set from the get-go. Basically, they've kept the same starting 5 throughout all the first week. You got Taylor Decker at left tackle. You got Joe Dahl at left guard. You got Frank Ragnow at center. You got rookie Jonah Jackson at right guard. And then you got Halapuli Vaitai at right tackle. Yes, I'm showing off that I can say his name. The questions are really on the backup end, where the Lions are kind of dealing with some injuries. Bo Benshaw has not practiced with the full team, which means rookie Logan Stenberg is repping with the twos at center. It has not looked good. Logan Stenberg has struggled mightily just snapping the ball. And, not trying to hate on the guy. He mostly played in a running offense in college and didn't play center at all, so it's all new to him. He's probably taking in a lot more than a normal rookie would. But I guess the question is, what do the Lions do at this point? Do they go with Bo Benshaw, who was repping to be the backup center late last year, but hasn't been healthy enough to rep? They don't know if they can trust that, or do they kind of cross their fingers and hope Logan Stenberg really improves in the next 2 weeks?
I mean, if it looks like he literally cannot play the position, then I think Bo Benshaw has to be the answer, because like from what it sounds like, Stenberg just can't play. Like he's just not at a point right now where if you put him on the field, where you can put him on the field at center, right? Like he's gonna mess up. He's gonna get run over. You just can't do it. And I think for Benshaw, that's kind of good, because I think that's kind of his ticket to a roster spot that he wouldn't otherwise have. So yeah, but our interior, other than Ragnow, our entire interior offensive line seems like a mess.
What do you think, Ryan?
I was going to say, is there any possibility that maybe Joe Dahl could kick inside and play center because he took some reps?
Yeah,
before?
I mean, early in camp, they were repping a lot of guys. A lot of guys were just snapping the ball. It hasn't been as varied during team drills, but yeah, I think Joe Dahl can slip in for sure.
Yeah, and I think maybe with how Stenberg has performed so far in camp, that maybe in case of emergency, you smash that glass case and Joe Dahl all of a sudden moves from left guard to center, and then
Kenny Wiggins or something.
Kenny Wiggins, Ode Ibushi, somebody maybe fills in that left guard spot. But it's tough. Like I think
that solution makes a lot. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I was just going to say real quick that I think that you kind of brought this up earlier, Jeremy, is like with Bo Scarborough, like just not being on the field, like, I mean, or even David Blau, like you don't have any preseason tape to go off of. And if Bo Benshaw can't, be out there on the field, I always talk about the greatest ability is availability. And I can't even remember my phrase, but if you can't be out there, then you can't be trusted. Yeah.
And that's especially true in the shortened offseason. But I think you could bring up a great point about Joe Dahl, because it saves you a roster spot, right? Like the whole thing right now with Logan Stenberg versus Bo Benshaw is Logan Stenberg's going to make the team. There's no questioning about that. But does Bo Benshaw? And if you say, well, you got to make Bo Benshaw your backup center if Logan Stenberg isn't playing well, then where's that extra roster spot coming from? Because otherwise, Bo's probably not making the team.
Mm-hmm. Do you know what could have fixed this entire problem?
Not keeping a QB3.
Graham Glasgow?
Re-signing Graham Glasgow.
Yeah. Our guard situation, even starters. I mean, Ragnow's obviously great, but I don't trust Joe Dahl. I don't trust a 4th round rookie. Or 3rd round rookie was Jonah Jackson.
Yeah.
Like it's.
I like Jonah Jackson a lot from what I've seen in camp. Joe Dahl's been kind of what he's always been, just like an average guy, and so. Yeah. If you take the entire starting offensive line for what it is, I think it's pretty good. But you're right. Like there are a lot of depth concerns. Like Kenny Wiggins, again, kind of a replacement level player. Probably not a disaster if he goes in there. But what about every other position? Like what about every other backup? What about who's your backup left tackle? Tyler Crosby's just kind of okay. Who's your backup center? Like we said, we don't know. Who's your backup right tackle? Still Tyrell Crosby. So who? I mean, so you've got 2 reserves that are kind of okay in Kenny Wiggins and Tyrell Crosby. So what do you? I mean, you're gonna have to be extremely lucky if that starting 5 stays healthy, and it happens every now and then, but not very often.
Cross your fingers and pray, man.
There you go. That's going to be the Detroit Lions motto for 2020. Actually, the NFL. Let's just make that the NFL motto. Cross your fingers and pray.
The whole league is in this spot.
All right, when we come back, speaking of crossing your fingers and praying, we're going to talk about the Lions defense. So stick around. We'll be right back on the PODcast. Week 1 training camp recap. All right, let's hit up the chat a little bit. Hi, Chad.
Hello,
I'm sorry,
Jeremy's
I ignored
wife.
you the whole time.
Jeremy's wife.
It's Reno the wife. Settle down. In case he's watching.
Jeremy got married during COVID.
Rookies aren't usually 2-way tight ends. Blocking is almost always the issue. Yep. Or in the one whose name we don't mention his whole career thus far. Yeah, we don't.
Ingram, that one.
Same initials. Whereas Chris Perfett, was he injured in an anime sex accident? Possibly.
Yeah,
but
those
that's
2D those 2D girls be hitting sometimes. Someone just dropped something right outside my door. Did you guys hear that? Or
Nope.
wait, I'll be back. I'll be back in a second.
No, he's working some late night radio this week. He should be back next week. We might be recording on
Never mind,
Sunday.
it's good.
We'll see.
Was it DoorDash?
No, it was a Grubhub. No. Oh wait, no, you don't play Fall Guys. Oh, you do, right?
Sort of.
I play Fall Guys.
Not with us though. Fake.
No. I can't. I don't have a PC that
playing,
can handle
playing, Playing by himself instead of playing with his friends.
it. All by myself.
Thank you for the penny, Nick the Greek. And also, I don't know if you're around, Joshua, but thank you for the Twitch Prime sub during the previous stream. I wasn't reading chat at all because I knew it was going to be toxic, and then when I glanced over, in fact, it was. Mavs game in 27 minutes. Oh boy, we better hurry up.
Ooh, in 20 Mavs. Oh
Man.
shit, yeah. Oh man.
All right. Well, chat's
Let's go
chat's pretty
Clippers. Bump
slow, so we can
Yeah,
jump
no,
right into the
no,
second
get outta
segment
here.
if you guys are ready.
Oh yeah, we're good.
You want
Ryan's
to finish
wrong,
that? You
but
want to
yeah,
slam
we
that
can
beer
continue.
first?
You want me to?
Kinda.
I won't have anything to drink for the rest of the chat, but all right.
Oh, it didn't
Did you
look-
bring 2?
2? Thank you, Dustin. Appreciate that,
man.
buddy.
Drink them during the first segment.
Wow. Talk
All
about the
right.
high life. I don't know. I was trying to. All right, give me a second. We'll get right back into it. And we are back on the POD cast. We're recapping week 1 of training camp, talking all sorts of training camp battles, where things stand, where things are going. And we are now going to move to the defense, where there's already been a lot of roster changes, but does that mean good things? We will find out soon. But let's talk about the defensive line. I'll be honest, I've been mostly impressed, I want to say, with the defensive line in training camp. It's always kind of hard to tell with defense because, there's not really live tackling. Things are always going, if not 90%, like 95 at most percent with a lot of these. So defensive players, it's always kind of hard to evaluate, especially on the defensive line. But the one revelation I'll say I've had is Danny Shelton. And I think I've underrated him from the beginning because I viewed him mostly as like a nose tackle, a run stuffing, big bodied nose tackle, but he's shown some slight quickness, some shiftiness, some pass rushing abilities that I didn't think he had. He was the one person I saw all week that was able to beat Frank Ragnow at center on a clean rush. And I started to look back a little bit. I started to kind of go back and look at his PFF grades, look at his sack numbers, look at a little bit of his tape, and he's actually a little bit more of a pass rush threat than I originally had thought. I know you guys haven't been out there to see him in training camp, but did I sell him on you at all? Are you believing that maybe he can be a little bit more of a pass rush threat than, say, Damon Harrison was last year?
More than Damon Harrison, yeah, because
That's 0.
But yeah, but I mean, yeah, no. If he's showing something in camp and like he's beating Ragnow, like he's not beating up on the guards who are like bad. He's beating up on like a genuinely good center. Then yeah, I mean, I don't want to like bet on it because obviously, like you said, like in game versus in practice is super different. So I don't think we should be like, yeah, we have an interior 0 tech pass rusher, but like we can, yeah. I mean, it's promising. It's nice to see, I guess.
Are you buying Danny Shelton as a pass rusher, Ryan?
No. The guy's been around long enough, and there's enough tape on him to know that he does one thing okay, and that's stuff the run.
All right. He had like a 70-something grade in pass rush last year with the Patriots.
On
3.5 sacks or
like
2.5
10
sacks?
snaps. On
Come on.
and with the New England Patriots.
Yeah. When is that ever not translated to another team?
Yeah, you're right. Now
But
talk
I'm-
about Jamie
He
Collins.
had 14. He played it. He started 14 games last year. He had three sacks, which is not bad for a defensive tackle. It's not game changing or anything,
Oh,
but
it's
but I
not
mean,
it's not terrible. But sacks don't matter. We don't care about sacks, right?
yeah, it's pressures. And I mean that's a big part where the Lions failed last year, right? Is pressure up the middle. Like we like to harp on the edges, but half the deal is the interior collapsing the pocket from the middle, and we
Right.
didn't get that last
And
year.
Do you remember one of the games where we did get that?
No.
Kansas City.
Kansas City.
Hmm.
Yep. Yep.
Are you
And that's where
referencing something?
things-
Danny Shelton wasn't in that game either.
No, he wasn't. But I'm saying that was one of the keys to success at like keeping the best player in the NFL that day.
Kept him subdued for all but one really, 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 really important play. Why are we talking about that game? Anyways, Nick Williams to me has been a little bit quieter in camp, although I looked over the highlight films from week 1 of training camp, and there were actually a couple of good pass rushing skills. I still remain very skeptical of him, but I'm buying a little bit more on Danny Shelton. Also, Deshaun Hand looks good. That's all I got to say about that. But let's talk about the one major injury that the Lions suffered, and that is the Achilles injury to Jashawn Cornell that landed him on IR. 7th round rookie. You always hate to see that. Was he going to make the roster? I don't know. He probably was a really right there on the bubble as, a guy who hasn't played a lot of football lately. Played a lot in his senior year at Ohio State, but not a lot before that. But the question now is who steps up? Who is going to take that role kind of behind Deshaun Hand, behind Nick Williams to be that rotational guy? Is it the guy that they went with last year in Kevin Strong? Is it a guy like Frank Herron who, was just recently added? Is there someone else maybe in the mix? Olive Sangapolu maybe? John Pennicini? I mean, John Pennicini is really more of a nose, but what's your guys' take on the depth there at the defensive line?
Kevin
Not
Strong can play, not like well, but he can. No, like I mean,
Yeah.
I think there's like a difference between like playing well but like still being able to play and just being like garbage and not being able to play. Like he definitely meets the threshold of he can play in the NFL, and he showed that last year, which is like for this defensive tackle room enough. Like it's probably more than Frank Herron or Olives. I can't say his last name. So yeah, I Strong, at least from the outside, probably is the favorite.
How much does push even really matter with this defensive line? That's going to always be my question with Matt Patricia. Like, how much does push even really matter? Because it seems like everything he wants to do is either like scheme blitzes from, the edge or from maybe the interior, and then he just wants the ability to cover. So, I mean, if that's the case, does defensive line depth even really matter all that much?
Yeah, you mentioned the Chiefs game. The big thing in that game was like Jared Davis and Tavai would like kind of sit, I think, and like these like channels would open and they would like basically just bull rush them, or they would just storm through. Like the interior rush wasn't coming from like snacks
Up front, right? Yeah.
Yeah, it was coming from the linebackers because like you said, like it's more about setting up the linebackers rather than actually creating push on your own.
Ugh. Setting up the linebackers.
You guys just set up me for the linebacker talk.
Oh yeah.
I think the biggest story from the linebacking crew is really Christian Jones, a guy who had mostly played either the Will or maybe even occasionally the Mike. He's been starting at the Jack, and whether that's because Austin Bryant is still on the physically unable to perform list or because they're bringing Julian Aquara along slowly or whatever, I'm a little surprised to see this. And at this point, I would say he's the favorite to be the Jack linebacker, which probably should be concerning. He doesn't really look the part to me. At least he hasn't in camp, where he's a guy that I have a lot of faith in creating a lot of pressure. And maybe that's not what the Lions want in that position, but if that's not what the Lions want, then they had Devon Kennard, who was perfectly capable of not creating pressure and doing everything else just kind of okay. I didn't have a question there. I'm
huge,
sorry.
Right?
What's that?
Okay, yeah, but Christian Jones is like huge, right? Like,
Yeah.
For a Will,
he's
he
like,
was like
he's like
oversized.
6'3", 240.
Yeah,
He's a big guy.
so
he's like Patricia likes his linebackers.
Yeah.
Yeah, so physically he makes sense, but like I don't want to see him doing anything on the field. He like like
Yeah.
what is he? I don't know. When has he shown he could pass rush or stop the run? I guess like 5 games at the end of 2018. But like stop the run, not pass rush, but just stop the run. But yeah, like that's weird. Like yeah, I guess it's what Ryan said. Like, do we need pass rush? Like, let's just have a big guy stand out there and be a boulder for the run game and never pass rush. That's Christian Jones at Jack.
Ryan, your face just reads excitement for this linebacking core. Am I right? Am I reading this right?
I'm so excited for the second line of defense for the Detroit Lions. Nothing gets me quite as giddy about the start of the season as the second line of defense for the Detroit Lions.
Well,
Jared Davis is so big.
Yeah. I teased it up front, but yeah, Jared Davis does not look great. There isn't any signs of like, oh, it finally clicked or anything like that. And like, I mean, I think it was someone from The Athletic. I don't know if it was Nick Baumgardner or Chris Burke, but he said like some of the worst coverage reps between linebackers and running backs were by Jared Davis. And he's not wrong. I'm sad to say that he's not wrong. Jared Davis can't cover, and I don't know if that's ever going to happen. It doesn't seem like it will.
But is he inspiring players in the locker room, Jeremy?
I mean, absolutely, 100%.
But does he have that Ray Lewis mentality? Yeah, move him to. And I mean, yeah, if we're moving Christian Jones to Jack, move Jared Davis to Jack, right? Like I was always against that, but like I don't know what Jones would have there that Davis doesn't.
It's
like if we're doing that, then
Yeah, it's tough, and it's tough to know what to do with him at all. But the Lions are apparently dead set on keeping him at middle linebacker. He's been starting there all of camp. I don't see that changing anytime soon. But the one good news, guys, Jamie Collins looks very comfortable and very good still. He's one of the best coverage linebackers that they have outside of probably Jalen Reeves-Maybin. He's moving all around. I think they're going to send him blitzing a lot. He's good. The question, though, the one thing that I think the narrative that I probably even am guilty of pushing this offseason is like he's going to make everyone around him better. I have not seen any sense of that being true yet. But we're talking training camp, no games. Maybe that becomes true, but I'm not seeing it yet.
What is our plan? Like, what is our starting linebacking group? Because Jamie Collins, he actually has demonstrated in the past that he can play Jack. Like, he's actually a pretty good Jack linebacker. I think Tavai, I know like he hasn't had the most the best camp, but he's a good football player. I think I'm probably higher on Julian Tavai than other people. But like he's good. He's an he's a decent NFL starter. Jalen Reeves-Maybin can play Will. I mean, I guess he's a little tiny for what Patricia likes, but he's again demonstrated he can play. Like I don't know what we're doing with Jones and Davis. Why are we still giving them like playing time and starting roles? Like what are these two can't function in the NFL? Like why are they like it just doesn't make sense. Christian Jones, why at Jack? Why?
I think the short answer is they've just done nothing in the draft. They've done nothing in the draft for linebacker, and those are just kind of the guys that they've come with. But what's interesting is they let Devon Kennard walk, and I thought that Devon Kennard was another competent NFL linebacker.
Yeah. No, I'm saying even with the guys on their roster, like you can move Jamie Collins to Jack, and then you could move him inside and kind of kick Trey Flowers out there. That's a real thing you could do. You could have Tavai be your starting Mike. You can have, you can put Jalen Reeves-Maybin at will. Like these are, you don't even have to like go add someone or draft someone. Like these are things that exist on your roster, but you're like so stuck on these two guys because they're big. Like
yeah. I mean, yeah, I think you're right. I think Jelani Tavai has been repping behind Jared Davis most of the time as the backup Mike, and I think maybe at some point this season, maybe the Lions do pull the trigger and be like, we got to swap it out. We gotta move on. We gotta face facts here with Jared Davis.
Mm-hmm.
The other guy that we haven't talked about yet that I think actually deserves to be part of the conversation is Mr. Pick Six himself, Reggie Ragland. He's been repping a little bit at Jack as well, with the second team or third teams occasionally. A guy who played, a decreasing role with the Chiefs as they went on, but a guy that I think shows he at least fits on the football field, and I think Chad's asking whether he locked up a roster spot yet. I wouldn't say he's locked it up yet, but he's come close. I think he's made it clear that he looks pretty comfortable out there. I wish I would have been there to see his pick six of Stafford on Sunday, but he's going to be a force too. I think the Lions have the options now to be like, all right, Christian Jones, all right, Jared Davis, you got a guy on your ass now. Like, show up and perform. And unfortunately, I don't really have a ton of faith in this coaching staff that they will pull the trigger on moving one of those guys, because let's be honest, Jared Davis has had more than enough chances to show that he's capable on the NFL field, and he hasn't done it. Christian Jones, I mean, they gave him an extension, so they clearly like him, even though everyone that has eyes outside of the organization doesn't seem to understand his value. But the Lions have depth. It's not great depth, and they don't have great starters, but they have options now, and that makes me at least a little bit faithful.
Would the rise of Ragland bump Killebrew, I guess, to add another?
I guess
how many special team aces do we need if we have Maben?
It's really a special teams number, and it goes to how many special teams guys you're going to keep on at corner, how many special teams guys you're going to keep at safety. They've also been moving him all around. He's been playing a little bit more safety now too, so it's just like it's really more of a special teams battle than a positional battle, I think, with Killebrew. You guys ready to move on to corner, though? Corner's a fun one. We can finally start talking about fun stuff with the Lions defense. So, obviously, the big story here is Jeff Okudah. Maybe not the funnest way to start this one off, because he hasn't looked as dominant as I think some people were hoping. He's been repping with the twos, showed some early struggles against Marvin Jones and Kenny Galladay. Got a little bit playing time with the ones when Desmond Trufant stopped repping in team drills. I guess my first question is really simple. Are you guys concerned at all about Jeff Okudah at this point?
Maybe a little, but because a corner is the hardest position to translate to the NFL, but also we've seen corners kind of do it in the rookie year, and Okudah was this can't miss top tier guy. So maybe, but also I don't know. He might put it together after a year or six or a few months or something. So yeah. I get not calling him a bust or anything yet, but it does suck to see that he's not really coming along, because that kind of leaves us in trouble at corner also.
Yeah, we'll get into that in a minute. Ryan, are you shaking in your boots about Jeff Okudah?
No, I'm not shaking in my one boot that I have on right now about Jeff Okudah. Oh, everybody feel bad for Ryan. No. I'm not worried about Jeff Okudah, and I think the simple reason is we know the trajectory for NFL cornerbacks, and we know that the transition from the college game to the NFL game is a huge one, and I think they're bringing him along slowly, and I think that they're setting him up for success in the best way possible. So I'm not worried about Jeff Okudah. He's gonna be where he needs to be on day one.
Week one, is he the starter?
I don't care.
Okay.
Well,
that's an honest answer.
For the trajectory of Okudah, it might not matter, but I'm saying for the roster itself, if Oruwariye, I mean, I feel we love him. He's Reno's favorite. He was a big draft guy, but he's kind of a 5th round pick until he kind of proves otherwise, if that makes sense.
Sure.
He's still a guy we picked in the 5th round who's played 3 NFL games or something in his career. And it's him and Desmond Trufant, who's aging and regressing and coming off an injury. And it's and Justin Coleman doesn't look good. Or I don't know about training camp, but I'm saying last year he didn't look good. And it's that the one part that was supposed to be good is also not good. What are we doing on defense?
I think I'm a little more optimistic about that group, and granted, a lot of it is just based on 1 week of training camp. I do think Oruwariye has looked comfortable, if not good. Desmond Trufant has been okay, although the injury is a bit concerning. Maybe they're just a lot of maintenance days. But he's looked definitely comfortable and competitive, and Justin Coleman has actually looked really good, I thought. So that to me is very promising, because what we saw at the end of last year with Justin Coleman is still very puzzling to me, because he was very good before he came to Detroit. He was very good in the preseason and very good in the first 3-4 weeks of the season, and then it all kind of came crumbling down for whatever reason. So I'm higher on the group, and the fact that Oruwariye looks good does provide me with a little bit of hope. And I mean, I think the Lions would be okay if Jeff Okudah wasn't the week 1 starter. They're obviously not going to have one of the strongest, 1-2 punches at cornerback, but I think they'll have 2 guys that are capable. And, capable isn't something you want to hear when we just talked about how bad the front seven was, but it's something I think they could.
Or about how important the secondary is in this defense.
True. But I'm not overall that worried. Dale Roberts is a guy that has also looked at least okay. He's gotten some first team reps with all the injuries happening as well. They have experienced guys. They have guys that look comfortable. So I'm not panicking about either Okudah or the cornerback depth, but I would say there's at least a little bit of disappointment overall. Which brings us to safeties. Now, maybe one of the weirdest overblown storylines of training camp has been Tracy Walker repping with the second team. I'll let you guys throw out your own conspiracy theories of why this is happening. But if you don't know, Tracy Walker has basically been repping as the second team free safety with Jaron Curse, whereas Will Harris has been repping as the strong safety with Duron Harmon in the first team. Whereas it started training camp, it was Duron Harmon at free safety and Tracy Walker at strong safety and Will Harris at free safety with Jaron Curse at strong safety. So guys, is this another Graham Glasgow situation? Are we going to see a safety rotation this year?
Is Will Harris taking like the deep third or like the deep middle, like even at strong safety? Because like Harmon's definitely more of like a guy that can play inside and do it all on the interior. I guess maybe they just want to. I don't know. Like Will Harris is bad. I mean, he might be better now, but like he's like Christian Jones. I don't want to see him doing anything. Like, get off the field.
Ryan, I think I already shared my theory with you. If you want, you can spoil it.
Yeah, so I can't co-opt your ideas like somebody from a certain once prestigious publication.
I don't know what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, but go ahead and talk to us about why everybody's so wrong about Tracy Walker.
I mean,
playing with the twos.
This is just classic Detroit Lions cross-training everybody, and they have to because Jaron Curse is going to be suspended for the first 3 games of the season. So that means you have no backup strong safety if Tracy Walker goes down. So what do? You rep Will Harris at strong safety with the first team with Duron Harmon. I mean, it's literally as simple as that. Like, why is this? And you know who the backup free safety is in case Duron Harmon goes down?
Will Harris?
No, I bet it's Tracy Walker. I bet they put Tracy Walker there and they put Will Harris at strong safety. So get Tracy Walker some rest at free safety as well. Like,
is Will Harris playing close to the line of scrimmage?
Yes.
I guess like
that's where his strength is.
Strong and free safeties are weird. Like it's hard to like gather from those distinctions what they're actually doing. But okay, that makes sense. And I don't think Harris is like. Yeah, okay, yeah, that makes sense.
You want Harris at strong safety pretty much no matter what. And so you have to cross-train Tracy Walker for that. You have to make sure that I mean, I think they have Will Harris at free safety with the second team with Jaron Curse because Jaron Curse is this huge dude that doesn't move as fast as Will Harris does. So if it comes down to it, if somehow Tracy Walker and Duron Harmon get hurt, that's when you want to have Will Harris as your free safety. But otherwise, you want him in the box. And so give him some first-team reps. Give Tracy Walker some second-team reps with the free safety so that if Duron Harmon goes down, you have someone that's capable of going sideline to sideline. I think it's simple as that.
And considering this team loves to have as many safeties on the field as possible, they went out and got Jaron Curse for a reason. And we talked about it with Arif Hassan when we had him on, but he's somebody who could even play nickel cornerback. Yeah. So I think positional versatility is so important to this team that your theory kind of plays out as it should. Like, I mean, they want guys who can play in different spots, and what better time than training camp? If you don't get a preseason, what better time than training camp to get them, acclimated to those positions?
Absolutely. Before we go to break, does anyone have anything to say about Punter Battle 2020?
Who cares?
Perfect. All right, when we come back, we are going to take your questions in the mailbag, so stick with us. We'll be right back on the PODcast. Cordy Heron, if if the coaching staff pushes out Walker the third, like they did to Diggs and Slay in Glasgow, I'm going to be furious. I don't
that's their
think that's
guy.
going to happen.
Yeah, that's their guy. Yeah,
They were way too excited to draft Tracy Walker.
They were.
oh, yeah.
So LJ does Tracy Walker play the same spot as Harmon? He can. I think Tracy Walker is best used in the box right now, especially with Will Harmon on the roster. He can cover tight ends better. He's a little more physical than Duron Harmon is, and I mean he's just good in space. But if Harmon goes down, that I think they would put Tracy Walker there because they have better options at strong safety than they do backup free safeties.
Harmon's like the opposite of Landon Collins. The more I think about it.
Yeah. Yes.
Just the flip Landon Collins on its head, and now you have Duron Harmon.
100%. Okay, but it is good to cross train him now while they can. Yeah. This feels like a galaxy brain move by Patricia. Why wouldn't you use your best safety more practice reps to get used to playing time with the 2 or 3 new members of the secondary? Makes no sense. There is a point to be made there about developing that chemistry, and that's something that Matt Patricia actually said very explicitly. Like, chemistry between your strong and free safety is one of the most important chemistry-related positions on the roster. But to me, we're talking about 3 or 4 practices. Like, that's it. I don't know. It doesn't like it seems to me like it's more important to have your ass covered in case of injury, at least a little bit, to have these guys familiar with these positions than, having an extra 3 practices with your starters. I don't know. Maybe that's just me.
No, I don't think that's just you.
Okay. It is just you.
Okay.
How much are we underappreciating or overlooking the fact that Desmond Trufant might be like the NFL like comeback player of the year?
Whoa, what?
We're not overlooking it at all because
where did that come from? What? Tell me why you're high on Desmond Trufant.
I'm high on Desmond Trufant because he was an elite cornerback that was like a top 10 guy at one point, and it seems like injuries or something that caused him to fall off a little bit. I mean, outside of the fact that like Alex Smith should win the award whether or not he takes a snap or not.
That's actually a really good point.
The fact that he's on an NFL roster. I mean, it's the same thing as Teddy Bridgewater. Like, Teddy Bridgewater should have like died. Alex Smith should have died.
I mean, like 200 years ago, he would have died, right?
Maybe 50 years ago, he would have died.
Maybe
20 years ago. I feel like they would just shot him up with drugs and overdosed him or something. Like, they were crazy back then.
Well, like that's also an injury that Joe Theismann like had the same exact injury and never came back and played football.
Right.
Like, but Alex Smith, like, a little over a year removed, all of a sudden is gonna play football again. Are you kidding me? But Desmond Trufant, I think, I don't know. It's just one of those gut things. It's one of those Bovada King 69 things where I just want to like lay some money on it.
Okay.
I feel like he's not at all what he was with like prime Falcons, like 2016, 2017. Yeah. No. That's gone.
I hope you're wrong.
Let's hope not.
Amani Oruwariye is going to be our best corner.
Hey, dude. 2 interceptions last year. That's more than one.
More than
one of them was
Baker's
against
career.
Dwayne Haskins, right?
I would buy cross training in 3 or 4 practices normally, but aren't there only 12 practices now after the whole COVID situation? That's true. There are, I think, only 12. It's either 11 or 12 training camp practices, but there'll be a week. I think a week and a half of regular season practices before week 1. So they'll have time.
Wait, so Harmon's covering the deep third, and Harris is taking the box snaps, right? That's the setup they're running with on the first team?
Yep.
Yeah, and I don't know. That doesn't... Like, I feel like if you want to train Walker at free safety, wouldn't you just switch them? Harmon can kind of play. Like, not well, but, like, he can move in the box. I feel you just switch them. Like, move Harmon down and put Walker up there.
Well, I think it's
weird.
It's about cross-training both of them because I think Will Harris has been mostly getting free safety reps with Jaron Curse with the twos.
Okay. That's usually what he played last year. He played a lot of like deep third and
Right.
didn't know how to.
It was not great.
Yeah.
Mailbag?
Yeah. You ready?
Mailbag.
All right. Give me a second.
Yes.
We'll jump into it. Okay. Mail time. Hashtag SPOT. Any POD, not POT. I don't know. Hashtag pot. That's probably going to get you a whole bunch of different things. Hashtag Ask
All the police
POD.
officers.
Anytime you have any questions, we'll answer them on the podcast. Or head to Pride of Detroit for our weekly SPOD post and hit us up in the comments section. Let's start with Anonymous Lions fans at Play to Win the Game on Twitter. Yes. Hashtag SPD. No matter how good the players look, they'll only go as far as Patricia can lead them. Any signs he's improved as a leader, coach, from interactions on the field and or with media? Well, I mean, today was a pretty good example of him, supporting his players, and I think the players definitely appreciated him for allowing them to have a platform. But in terms of like on-field stuff, and he's definitely improved with the media. I think the team probably really appreciated the punter battle based on what I hear. Like, that sounded like it was a really fun situation. But I think, I think all of the NFL like game related concerns still exist, right? Like the inability to adjust to the players that he has, the reluctance to blitz, the over reliance on running the ball and stopping the run rather than kind of leaning on passing the ball when all of modern day statistics say that passing is more important than running in today's NFL. Those are the concerns that stay. In terms of like his affability, in terms of his relationship with the players, I think that's definitely improved since year one. I think even Darius Slay would probably admit that. But that, I don't know if that's going to lead to wins on Sunday. I still have my questions about that. Anyone else?
Kind of sounds like he's chilled out, but like, yeah, I don't know. That's good for the locker room, but I don't know what that's going to translate to on the field.
Yeah. All right. Reese Evans from Pride of Detroit asks, 2.5-part question. 1, what have you seen in training camp that gives you hope for the upcoming season? And 2, have you seen anything that concerns you? Also, any signs in Patricia's evolution with the team? Well, we kind of answered that one. Based on what we've talked about, guys, let me just say that. What has you most optimistic about the team? What has you the most pessimistic about the team? Ryan.
I think
TJ Hawkinson.
I was going to say, I think overwhelmingly the second line of defense for the Detroit Lions, like the linebackers are just an absolute mess. And I think that they're so important in a Patricia defense. I think you think back to like all of the success he had in New England. He had guys like Donta Hightower and Jamie Collins, who is here now, but it's like years later. So I think that's one of the things that still has me down so much, especially with how much they're like still just, totally in on Christian Jones and totally in on Jared Davis. So that's the thing that I'm probably most concerned about and most down about, is that there really hasn't been that much change to that position. But I think the thing I'm most optimistic about is this offense. I think this offense has the capability and just the outright ability to be very good. Like, I mean, like top 5. If Stafford stays healthy all season long, I think that there's enough depth, and I think that there's enough in terms of like skill players, playmakers. I think that there's enough for this offense to be a top 5 offense.
Those are pretty good answers. I'm not going to lie. Like, definitely offensive weapons has to be the most optimistic part of this roster because of all the speed, all the talent, all the wide receivers. I mean, I think if you were to like rank teams by depth at receiver from 1 to 6, I don't know if there's a team that can match the Lions. Like, everyone from 1 to 6, I think, could play on an NFL team at receiver. That's how good they are. And then, yeah, I mean, and pick a spot on defense that's not cornerback or safety. And that's my main concern. What about you, Mansour?
Yeah, so I mean, like kind of what you guys said with the skill positions being the biggest positive. I mean, the fact that like the camp battles are so intense because so many players look good that it's like a problem. Like it's like the best problem to have. Too many of our guys look good. Which one are we going to cut? But I think like I don't know. I guess Akuda is probably for me the most disappointing part because, I mean, I think he was kind of the key to our secondary making this like big turnaround. And I think if he isn't ready to like go week one, I don't think that makes him a bust or that makes him like has any bearing on his long-term projections or anything. But I think it's like suddenly this secondary that was supposed to kind of turn around and it would go from just Darius Slay doing everything to like an actual good group is like injured veteran, 5th rounder guy who fell off after 4 games last year, guy who got cut after a big contract, and rookie who's struggling in training camp. It's like, oh, well, like that's the lineup right now. That's our 5. So like, oh, maybe this isn't happening.
All right, let's change topics to something much more happy. From David Mara at David Mara on Twitter asks, Detroit style or New York style pizza? Very simple.
I like square
Chicago.
pizza.
Chicago's not an option.
Yeah, get this guy out of here.
Chicago's not an option. Detroit or New York style?
I'll pick Detroit.
I'll pick New York because I think the older I get, the less bread I want to eat.
Here's the thing. Detroit style pizza is definitely better. It tastes better, but it will ruin my day. It will stick with me all day.
You're done.
New York
You're done for the day.
New York style is like a snack. Like I can just have a slice of New York style pizza at any time of day and run 10 miles afterwards.
Wait, isn't New York style pizza? That's the big one, right? I'm thinking.
I mean, it's big, but it's thin.
It's thinner,
it's
though.
thin, but yeah, it's like wide, yeah.
But Detroit style is just you're putting a brick in your body.
Your body can't handle.
It's a very delicious brick, but
aging is scary.
Coming for you, dude. It's coming for you.
No, it is. I'm 23. I was realizing like these dudes getting drafted are like younger than me now. It's scary.
Oh, boo-hoo.
Yo,
guys are retiring before they're my age.
Zion Williamson was like 14 when I graduated high school. It's very weird.
Stop.
All right. Sad_Lions asks, who do you think will be the starting running back week 1?
Kerryon Johnson, if he's healthy.
Big if.
It doesn't matter.
It's DeAndre Swift, and it's not going to be close.
Might be Ty Johnson.
Yeah. It's not going to be Ty Johnson. Stop it.
Might be Bo Scarborough if a few people in our Twitter mentions have anything to say.
Yeah.
Last year they
Jamal
loved him.
Agnew.
All right. We'll go with our last couple questions from Jay Johnny at Pride Detroit. They ask, who has been your biggest surprise so far in camp? Probably tough ones to answer for you guys, but if you want to go based on reports that you've heard, you could do that. Or I can go first and you can think about it. What are we thinking?
I mean, off reports, Okuda. That's
yeah.
I don't know. I really expect him to kind of step in and be not like fully ready, but kind of ready.
Yeah. I think mine's probably Danny Shelton. I mentioned it a lot at the top. I didn't expect him to show any sort of pass rushing moves. I just expected him to just be a immovable force at defensive tackle, nose tackle. But I'm starting to think he might provide a little bit more than that.
TJ Hawkinson.
Yeah! Nice. He's on board.
I've always been on board.
Sure you have, you little Twitter troll. Jay Johnny also asks, press attendance at games this year? ? Will press box be open, limited? I guess I can answer that one. I don't have any specific details yet. They're still working them out. I do know that they plan on spreading them out. Not just limited to the press box, but probably like using suites and things like that so that everyone is socially distanced. I'm also fairly certain that they're not going to have locker room access. That would make sense since they're essentially trying to make a bubble and we're not all getting tested. So there's still a lot to be determined there, but There will be press there, I believe. They're just still working out the details. And then last question for everybody again, and I don't know if this affects any of you, so I think it affects Ryan, so you might have to carry the talk here. He says, obligatory foodie question. Coffee Talk 101. Is flavored coffee even considered coffee? How do you like your coffee? Espresso, latte, flavored creamers. What is your favorite roast? Dark, medium, light? What's your favorite bean of origin? Hawaiian, Kenyan, Colombian?
Coffee people are weird.
Yeah. If you're a coffee person, you're kind of weird. Like, I dated a girl who was like really specific about her coffee.
Mm-hmm.
Like, she liked coffee that was like specifically from the slopes of somewhere, and I was just like, you're way too into coffee, because like my favorite coffee are Miller lattes.
You drink
but
the
I don't know.
You dabble in some coffee, do you not?
No, I do dabble in coffee. The trick that I found for coffee is I like my coffee black, but like I'm always not crazy about like the bitterness of it. So if you put turmeric in it, it's a natural anti-inflammatory too.
Ooh.
And it really cuts through all the bitterness. So you can add just like a little sprinkle, and then I guess you can do it to taste, but it really cuts through all the bitterness, and it has like some earthy kind of notes to it. So it's good.
I will say, as not a coffee drinker, I did drink some Hawaiian coffee when I was in Hawaii, and it tasted like coffee.
Is hazelnut? That's flavored coffee. That's what he means, right? Because like when I do drink coffee, that's what I get at 7-Eleven, because that's the only coffee. Like, I don't care. I'm not paying.
I'll
more than
sometimes
$1
get
for
those
coffee.
like milky coffee things that are at gas stations, and they're if I'm going on a road trip and I need to stay up, I'll drink one of those. It's just like chocolate milk essentially.
Yeah, I just don't really know anybody who really drinks other than my parents. My parents are the only people who I know like that drink coffee for the taste of coffee, and they drink decaf.
That to me is like
That's
psychopath
weird.
behavior.
Like, why do you do that to yourself?
I just want to drink dirt just for the taste of it.
Yeah, it's literally hot, dirty water. Just drink water.
Hot, dirty water.
All right, guys, that's going to have to do it for this week of the POD Cast. Be sure to join us. We're going to have a midweek podcast where I think we're going to kind of talk about NFL season preview stuff, and then we'll be back here either Sunday or Monday night to do our normal POD Cast. Make sure you follow us on Twitch. Make sure you follow us on YouTube where we're uploading these. And, of course, make sure you're always leaving a review or rating us or any of that sort of stuff. But until next week, it's chaos. Be kind.
It's hot, dirty water. Don't drink it.
Oh, I cut you off with the recorder. But we're still live because, wow, POD Reno with the very untimely raid of 5 people. How was Fall Guys, Reno? How many wins did you get? How many crowns did you get? Be honest. Don't say 6. Okay, 3
today.
Acceptable.
Yeah, well, what kind of loser only gets 3 after playing Fall Guys?
I got 4 last night.
Yeah.
Ryan, do you have one yet?
I got so close to getting a crown. We were doing like the mountain one, and we literally jumped at the same time, but I was in front of him, and he got the crown. The guy behind me did, and I was like, "What the fuck?" Like,
he probably just hit the trigger like a split second or something.
Just like a split second sooner than I did. But the thing
wins.
was like, 0 wins.
Same,
I was so far. I was so far behind everybody at that point. I was like, there's no way I'm going to even catch up. And then when I did catch up, like my hands were like shaking as I was like getting close to like pressing the X button to jump. I was like, oh, I get one chance at this. And I did it. And then I lost. And I was like, mother.
Were you ever the kind of the kid that like threw his controller?
No, but I have a friend who does that still, like, and he's 28.
I totally did it. I learned that Sega Genesis controllers were robust as hell.
Super durable.
Robust as hell.
Jeremy.
I've dropped my controller.
Yes.
Oh, you just have that next to you. What?
That thing they need to make phones out of that.
I had to get a backpack ready for golf the other day, so I just dumped all my Sega Genesis stuff out. But I have one of the
holy
the
shit,
big boys.
You have it within arm's reach. Like
That's
Yeah.
you
amazing.
didn't even
Like,
get up.
This was the one that had you could plug in headphones to it, and like that has like the volume control.
Is there I can't remember if it was this or the NES that has like a switch on the back that's like channel 3 or channel 4.
Yeah,
Who's
it's
on
right here.
it?
It has it? Oh,
Yeah, that's right.
I
It's
love it.
right there, channel 3 or channel 4.
Oh my god. Y'all probably don't even know what that's for. Or Mansoor probably has no idea
No,
what that means.
I know. Channel 3 was the VCR and the N64 and stuff. Streets of Rage.
Hell yeah, dude.
2.
2.
Oh yeah.
Sorry, Nick the Greek.
That's-
Thank you for the 69 bits.
Nice.
Nice.
All right, I'm gonna go eat because that's what I always do.
Yes, our bodies require it. True. All right, I think I've had a very long day, so I think we're probably going to close up shop. Sorry,
I'm
Reno.
gonna watch the Clippers
Still-
game.
Still appreciate the raid. We're all going to watch basketball or something. All right?
Did the Jazz lose?
Yeah.
Chat, did the
Well,
Jazz
it's
lose?
coming down to the end, but they'll lose. Yeah. Yeah, they lost. I think. Yeah. All right.
I
Good
don't know
night,
if the show
guys.
lose.
Later.
Good night, everybody. Thanks for joining us. We'll see you soon.